Europe has got to decide how bad do they want the thing to hold together, and if they do, it's going to cost money. If anybody was going to do a touchdown dance, that seems like a pretty dumb idea. I mean, all that happened is they didn't get sacked.
That was former White House economic advisor Austin Goolsbee on CNBC discussing the reality ahead for European leaders after Greek voters renewed their commitment to staying within the Eurozone. But financial problems across the continent are killing any investor excitement. Here at home in the U.S., the Dow Jones opened in the red, stayed there most of the morning. As you can see, the S&P is down as well, the NASDAQ up by 7. CNBC senior analyst Ron Insana joins me now. So, Ron, if it's not Greece, there's the potential for Spain. They've already seen their borrowing rates go up. There are fears about Italy potentially as well. We've got Portugal. The global markets truly avoided a catastrophe with this Greek vote. But how worried should investors be here at home moving forward, especially over the next 6 months out of what's coming out of Europe?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the U.S. is holding up relatively well when compared with the rest of the world, even China, which is slowing down, I think, more rapidly than people realize. Europe, as you said, dodged a bullet, got the least worst result in the elections. They may stay in the euro longer. They run out of cash roughly in July. Spain is now the epicenter here with borrowing rates above 7%, which are deemed unsustainable. Italy, as you say, problematic. The real issue here is, can the Europeans, as a continent, carve out a deal in which they become more tightly knit, not just in monetary terms, but political and fiscal terms? That is the big question, and it's the only solution that drives them towards some resolution of this crisis.
And again, people here at home need to understand this impact because of the Eurozone being our largest trading partner. I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that the EU and their GDP is larger than that.
Collectively, yes.
Collectively larger than that of the states, but that obviously has a big ripple effect and tie to the natural economy domestically here.
Yeah, although interestingly, China in many ways is more dependent upon Europe than we are. We also have Canada and Mexico as rather large trading partners, all of Asia. I wouldn't say we're immune to their problems. I think we may be slightly less vulnerable than other parts of the world. But if we had a catastrophe, for instance, if the euro were to break up completely, that would create a banking crisis in Europe that would be like us in 2008. So this is big. This is important. Right now, they're limping along.
Right.
The G20, I know you're going to talk about that in a minute, is trying to carve out some language that talks about solutions, but they really need to get far more aggressive in dealing with this problem. Pro-growth strategies and some form of austerity to stem the tide here, because we are by no means out of the woods yet.
Meanwhile, when you talk about the G20, the president is expected to speak with Angela Merkel, German's chancellor, about what their role is in this going forward. Their role so far has been to have the broadest shoulders, and that's going to continue to be their role, correct?
Yeah, and they're the strongest economy in Europe. Everybody else is considerably weaker. They have more money than anybody in Europe. The question is, do German citizens want to finance what has been the profligacy of southern Europe, the peripheral states of Italy, Portugal, Greece, and Spain, as you said, and also Ireland, which some say may need yet another bailout. So the German people have to decide how much integration they want and what they're willing to pay for it. Remember, when the Soviet Union dissolved, West Germany effectively bought out East Germany, and they paid for that for over a decade. So it's hard to know whether the Germans, having done it with their brethren, will be willing to do it with everybody else on the continent.
CNBC's Ron Insana. Ron, thanks so much. And coming up in just 1 hour, President Obama is going to be meeting, though, face-to-face with Russian President Vladimir Putin ahead of the G20 summit. This is for the very first time that they'll come face-to-face since Putin regained the presidency. At issue, Russia's role in the ongoing crisis in Syria. NBC Chief White House Correspondent, Daily Rundown host Chuck Todd, live for us in Los Cabos, Mexico. So, Chuck, we've seen the reports this morning of Russia's military preparing to send its Marines to Syria. So on that news, what can President Obama accomplish in this pre-talk before the G20 with Vladimir Putin?
Well, they have pretty low expectations. I mean, they certainly expect this to have some awkward, at least public body language. But behind the scenes, the big push and what they're trying to get the Russians to agree to is to at least, perhaps throw Assad under the bus. If they don't want to topple the entire regime, which may be what a lot of others that are worried about Syria would like to see, an entire change and fully open elections, do you at least do what they did in Yemen, which is ease out the leader himself. And that's what they're trying to get the Russians to agree to, is saying, hey, you have the credibility, you can keep the regime propped up while helping get Assad out. And that possibly maybe the Russians will agree to do something like that, playing a little bit to Putin's ego. But look, it's going to be tough, and clearly Putin is trying to send a message by putting out that announcement before this bilateral even takes place. So, you know, I think expectations are rather low for what can get accomplished at this first face-to-face.
Okay, so the expectations are low, but if there is this cold shoulder, maybe from Putin putting it toward the administration, does President Obama then say, because, you know, everybody that watches the UN and follows it knows that Russia and China are large obstacles to getting things done, does the president then say, forget Russia and China, let's work with nations that truly want to end the violence in Syria and to remove Bashar al-Assad?
Well, I don't think they're ready to fully throw the Russians and the Chinese aside on this, considering, first of all, with China, how important of an economic partner they are. And with Russia, you know, I think one of the pieces of leverage which could be interesting here is, does Putin want to deal with this American president or the next American president, when you think about the rhetoric that Mitt Romney has used about Russia and about Putin in particular? So that might be interesting there. How much of that is behind-the-scenes leverage for this president to say to Putin, you know, hey, you need to give a little bit on this, or you're going to make it a lot easier for the world to sort of rise up against you, even in American politics, where you've had now 2 straight presidents try really hard to work with Putin, when you think back to former President Bush and this president, of working with this current Russian regime of Medvedev and Putin. So whether that's leverage or not, I'm not sure. But look, the other big issue out of here, Thomas, is what's happened in Europe, and the president has added a one-on-one meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel for later this afternoon, and that could be what kind of message of stability comes out of that, obviously, is very important as far as the president's concerned for his own domestic politics.
NBC's Chuck Todd. Chuck, great to see you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.